Welcome to the WorkWell Podcast. I'm Dulcie, and I'm here with my best friend of over 20 years, Yemisi.
20 years? Wow. And in that time, we've seen it all professionally. From big wins to epic fails, we've learned so much along the way about life, work, and everything in between.
We don't believe in gatekeeping, so we want to share these lessons with you. We've created this space to explore the challenges we all face, whether it's finding balance, building confidence, or even stepping into leadership.
You'll get stories, advice, and practical tools to help you feel inspired, informed, and excited to tackle whatever comes next.
So, take a deep breath, settle in, and let's dive into today's conversation. And the thing I forgot to ask, my darling, is how are you?
I am very well, thank you, my sweetheart. I am wonderful. I am well. This was half term.
Oh, that's why the roads were so clear.
That is why.
Amazing.
They'll be clear in London. Maybe they're not very clear here because no one is traveling. We broke.
Right. So, what are we talking about today? Oh, yes, I forgot. It's the first of a 2-part episode.
Yes.
And Dr. Dulcie Darkside is in fashion.
Hello.
What are your symptoms? Do you know what? Don't tell me. Dulcie Darkside hasn't give a shit. Okay. Right, so into today's topic, or rather this week and next week's topic, it's all about workplace dynamics. So today we're going to talk about things concerning barriers and bias, and next week we're going to be talking about culture and systemic change. So we're just going to break it up into a couple of episodes. So have you ever felt stuck in a role, or have you felt like you've been held back despite your best efforts? Yeah. Well, many of the challenges we face, they're not just personal challenges, they're not failures, they're actually systemic. And I feel like I've said this before. When we were talking about imposter syndrome, I think we both were like, is it imposter syndrome or is it just a system against you, you know?
Yeah. It's, you're not paranoid if they're actually out to get you.
Run. So what we're going to tackle in this episode is some of the common barriers and biases that you will find in a workplace. So whether it's a glass ceiling or pay gaps, we're going to explore these different phenomena, understand why they happen, but also, and most importantly, give you strategies to overcome them. So whether you're experiencing it, we've got some tips and advice, or if you're a leader, how to nip this shit in the bud, okay? So Dr. Dulcie Darkside is back in office because we're going to make it a little bit of a game.
Yeah. Okay.
I think what I will do is, some of them are going to be like super freaking obvious, but what I will do is just give you the term and then you tell me what you think it might mean.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay, let's try it.
Okay. The first one then is the glass ceiling.
Oh, okay. That's when a certain group of people can't progress past a certain point in an organization, but for no obvious reason. Like, it's not something that is made explicitly clear. And I didn't want to use the word clear because of glass ceiling. I was like, oh God, clear. But like, there's this kind of almost invisible barrier to progression past a certain point in the workplace.
Perfect. I give you a 9 out of 10.
Thank you, darling.
The one is
really
missing because you said a certain group of people. It is actually specifically women.
Women specifically,
yeah.
Right? Okay, that's good to know.
So the definition, and honestly, clap for you, because the glass ceiling refers to the invisible barrier preventing women from reaching senior leadership roles. So there are slightly different ceilings. For example, in the US for Asian professionals, and when they describe Asians over there, they're typically referring to East Asian people.
Okay.
And I kept reading. I read this. I had to make sure. I was like, this feels a bit offensive, but can I say this? Over there, they call it the bamboo ceiling. Feels a bit somehow. It feels a bit somehow.
Really?
But yeah, it's called the bamboo ceiling. There are specific cultural and systemic challenges that are faced by Asian professionals. So there are different forms of the ceiling. So the glass is the one for women. And it's not just an excuse or oh yeah, okay, is it real? It is real. So of the FTSE 100 companies, and this is from 2023, only 40% of women have board positions. Yet they make up half of the workforce. And this is up 12% from a decade ago.
Yes.
So it has been improvement, but it's slow moving.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 40% have board positions, which again, it's not too bad. It could be better, not too bad. But if we were to look at that same FTSE 100 company list, how many do you think have female CEOs?
Less than 20%, I'm sure.
8%.
Yeah.
So there's this massive decrease in that funnel from entry-level jobs to middle management to board to CEO. It's ridiculous, right? But, women are massively underrepresented in senior positions is the gist of the whole thing. And then if we were to think about ethnic minorities, again, staying with the FTSE 100 companies, 4% of board appointments go to ethnic minorities.
Right.
Yeah. And there are 4 companies in the FTSE 100 that have absolutely no board members of an ethnic minority.
I'm surprised it's just 4.
And board members, though, and board can be quite large. Like, it is kind of like, damn. And of all the most powerful roles in the UK, 4.6% are held by ethnic minorities, even though they make up 14% of the population. So it's just a really big underrepresentation for women, for ethnic minorities. So it's so, it can be so demoralizing. Here we are as 2 Black women. Like, bloody hell. It's not always you. Sometimes it is you, let's be honest. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes you're just not as good as you think you might be, right? But putting that to one side, there are things that are set up. The system isn't, I won't even say set up against you. The system wasn't created with you in mind.
Yeah.
And so it can be really hard to navigate that. So if you are experiencing that, you're in a situation where maybe you are trying to move up the ladder and you're not entirely sure why you can't quite make the moves that your peers are making. There's only so much you can do, right? Because this is systemic. But I think something that can help is looking for mentorship or sponsorship. Being able to build those relationships in with people who do hold power, who are decision makers, and who can help you overcome those barriers and navigate them. This thing about the invisible barriers, so much of this nonsense is in the unsaid and the unseen. So if you are able to find someone who can say and see, who can speak and be heard, who understands and can help you navigate that, be strategic in looking for that mentorship or sponsorship. And at some point, I will pull something together about how to get a mentor or a sponsor, and even what the differences are between those things and how to nurture those relationships.
Yeah.
But it can really help you to get someone or some people who are inside the system to help you within that.
And it doesn't have to be within the organization.
Can be outside of it, absolutely.
It can be outside of it. And sometimes maybe find it easier to find that kind of allyship outside your organization.
Yeah.
I know quite a few people who have done that outside of their immediate organization, and you could see the results of it transferred over to how they were able to then progress.
Yeah. Because what you can probably do is look for a sponsor within your business and look for a mentor outside of your business.
Yeah.
Another thing is to think about your visibility. So we talked about this when we talked about bragging and self-advocacy, but don't hide your light under a bushel. Talk about your successes. Make sure that it's clear what you're doing. Don't think that your hard work is going to be noticed. But it'll be noticed, but it'll be overlooked. Or you'll find yourself becoming the donkey that they're like, well, this person just does really good work, so let's just load more onto them. And you don't get rewarded for that.
Hard work does not equate to success.
Sure doesn't.
It's a hard truth to learn, especially after you've been brought up with that being drummed into your head. And sometimes it can be very traumatic. That learning experience can be very traumatic to discover that actually hard work is not in any way, shape, or form a guarantee of success.
It's really not. So, visibility. Don't hide the work that you're doing. Go back to the bragging episode because we really got into how to do it without sounding like a complete dickhead, like how to do it without being cringeworthy and everything else, how to speak up for yourself, advocate for yourself and others without being awkward or fake or phony. So definitely go back and listen to that if you haven't already, but just be sure to own your success, own it. Now, if you're a leader and you are noticing, hey, we have an issue with this glass ceiling or whatever ceiling, there's something going on here around underrepresentation, don't be shy about auditing this stuff, right? Do an equity audit. Try and identify where are the gaps in representation. The obvious things are always like women, or minorities. And those are some of the things that are spoken about the most, and they're very important as we are two minority women speaking. But that's not everything, right? Think about things like disabilities, age, because there's a hell of a lot of ageism that goes on. It's like you've hit 40, 45 and suddenly no one cares anymore. The disabilities are often ignored, right? It's and there's a lot, I'll talk about that.
Especially hidden disabilities.
Hidden disabilities.
Not everyone. Disability is a spectrum, and not all of them are visible. In fact, a lot of them are not.
Right. So that's sort of different things that you should be paying attention to, right? And this isn't some like the woke mind virus. And honestly, if you say things like the woke mind virus, go ahead and stop this podcast, unfollow.
This is not for you.
It's not for you. We're not for you. God bless. You get lost. So yeah, conduct a equity audit within your team or organization. And it's not just for fun. This stuff isn't just like, oh, let's be fair, blah, blah, blah. There are some really, really serious business benefits to it. And at a time when we're seeing DEI being rolled back around the world, especially in the US, I've been intrigued to see the CEOs who are like, I think that's cute, but I like my bottom line, and diversity is absolutely plumping that thing up. Because actually having a diverse workforce has been proven to be so much more financially beneficial for corporations.
There's nothing like, these are just pure hard facts.
Pure facts. Like these see a lot of people who are like the Apple guy and who are like, no, we're not going to change. It's not because these straight white middle-aged men just love diversity.
No,
they love money. And it's financially very viable. I was at a talk by this phenomenal woman, Michelle P. King. And she does this well. Oh my God, I've never seen somebody so electric on stage before. And she has a book called The Fix. It's just stunning. And she really talks about the very real commercial reasons for diversity. Because if you don't care about anything else, care about your bottom line. Okay? Get it right. Representation matters. It matters for us as humans, but if you don't give a shit about that, it also matters for your bottom line. So get it sorted. And then what you can do as an individual, because I appreciate so much of this can feel bigger than just you, even if you are a leader in a business. You yourself can actively sponsor, mentor, and advocate for talented people from underrepresented groups, right?
So
you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely right. I'm going to get my soapbox for a little bit here.
Get on it, babe.
Because I can see some leaders listening to what you just said, and I can see the wheels turning in your head. Advocating for talented members of underrepresented groups is not, I repeat, is not tokenism.
No.
Please, I've seen too many leaders confuse the two, and it is maddening. Look up tokenism and look at your actions. If your actions are aligned with what the definition of tokenism is, please stop. I'm not going to go into a whole definition of tokenism and describing it here, but just do your homework a little bit. Go and look up tokenism and then examine your actions or your game plan. And if there is significant overlap between the two, bin it.
Simple as that.
Rant over.
Thank you. Rant appreciated. Okay, everybody, you heard that, right? So, on to the second phenomena. Well, there's two in this one. I'm going to kind of put them together because they're somewhat similar. So the first one then is broken rung. What do you think that might be?
I think I've come across that before. Something to do with like someone that is early on in their career but can't get a leg up or something like that.
Okay. And then we're going to go on to the second one. Answers to follow, okay?
Yeah.
The second one is sticky floor.
Oh, that one is when basically someone is like stuck in a low level role, or they have outgrown that role a long time ago, but they're not able to progress for some reason.
Oh.
I mean, the sticky floor, I mean, that was
the floor. But yes, broken rung refers to a lack of early career promotions. Again, it disproportionately affects women and minorities. Surprise, surprise. And sticky floor, very similar thing. It describes being stuck in low-level roles, but especially in gendered professions like admin or caregiving, which are also called pink-collar jobs.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the examples of this in the real world, for every 100 men promoted to a manager level role, 86 women are promoted to manager level role. So we've already said how women are massively underrepresented in leadership positions, but they make up 58% of the workforce for administrative roles. So broken rung, sticky floor, if you are experiencing it, again, let me just be so completely for real. There are some places that you're going to work, dear listener, where you will experience these things and the only solution you have is to leave.
Yeah.
Okay? Listen, you're not Batman. You're not here to change Gotham City. It's not your job, okay? So put your cape down, okay?
Yeah.
So you really have an objective eye. Look up the way. Just look around you. Is there really any room here for true growth for you? Be really honest with yourself. And I will definitely, because I love this topic so much, in the future, this year at some point of this podcast, we are going to do one about leaving a job. Because I love to talk about leaving. And you know how I love to leave. I like to leave everything. You can leave well, right? And there's a lot of thought into how to leave. But listen, sometimes you're better off cutting your losses. There's something called the sunk cost fallacy, and I'm going to bring it up here because it can be so easy. The sunk cost fallacy is essentially you sticking at something because you're like, well, I've invested this much into it. I need to see it through. Girl, it's called a fallacy for a reason. That's false.
Yeah.
You're not getting anything out of it. The juice is not worth the squeeze. Stop.
Yeah.
Get out right now. Like Jojo said, get out. Don't waste any more time if there's no hope, okay? But if you are in a situation where you think, actually, no, there is something here, I think there is something worth pushing for, worth fighting for, then like we said with glass ceiling, proactively speak up about what you're doing, okay? Find ways, and again, go back to the bragging episode, to track and talk about your achievements, use them in conversations, use them when you're having those promotion conversations, and push, go for it, right? If you think there really is something here worth going for. And also be really damn honest with yourself, okay? If you are lacking, step your shit up. Upskill, learn, train. If you are like, I want to move into leadership, get the skills for a good damn leader. Not just the kind of technical skills of your role, but understand about people management, because there's a lot of managers who should be nowhere near managing people.
And also be honest with yourself if that's not the track you want to take. And so just be really honest with yourself, like Dulcie said.
Absolutely, you've got to be. Because we all know what it is to have a bad manager. I'm someone who likes managing, and I'll blow my own horn. I'm very good at it. I'm a very good manager. But I'm a good manager because I've had so many bad ones. Like, there's a natural affinity for it, sure. But when you have had bad experiences, my God, it sticks with you. So you don't want to be that person. And I think, do I want to manage, or am I actually happier with mastery and being a sole contributor? Is that actually where I want to go? And then where are the opportunities for me to do that here? Are there opportunities for me to do that here? If not, where can I go that will better suit the kind of progression, the sort of career that I want? Honesty with yourself is so important. Later in the year, I'm going to run a challenge called Self-Discovery, because there's so much, and I think I'll probably do that sort of early summertime. There's so much that we assume we want because other people do it, or because it's what our parents have done, or because it's the thing that we ought to do.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult to actually be honest with ourselves about who we really are, who we want to be, and what we want to do. It's easy to say, but my God, it takes a long time. You can get so carried away with what you should do that what you actually want to do, what you really ought to do, is completely, it's dying in a corner. It's just a little crumbling thing in the corner of your mind. We want to breathe life into who you truly are. So we're going to do a self-discovery challenge early summer. I've said it now, so I'm going to have to do it.
Yeah.
But it's a journey that, you know well, me, that I've been on.
See, same. And you mentioned something about, should and sunk cost fallacy. And part of that is your education, your background, your career history. Those can be contributors to sunk cost fallacy as well. You can look at your career history and your education, your background, and say, oh, but,
too late to change.
I did this, and is that all for nothing? Well, it's not all for nothing. You learned what you needed to learn, and now you need to follow what your actual true desires are.
Absolutely.
And that is very personal to me specifically, because I have an engineering background, and I went into education, and now I'm in tech, and it's like, but I had to at some point stop looking at what I should be doing based on my background and follow followed my curiosity, followed my interests. And my CV looks crazy, but
it makes sense. But
I'm happy.
It's the same thing with me. Like, I did engineering, then I did a master's in business and tech, then I went into advertising and media, and then I went into marketing, and then I went into consulting and innovation, and then I went into deep depression. So
that too.
And all of it has brought me to where I am today, talking to you guys about career and wellness.
But that's the thing. There's something about going through the dark side of something that helps you to be a better manager or better teacher.
100%. So on the broken rung and sticky floor, then, if you are experiencing it, like we said, be real with yourself, upskill if you need to. If you're in a situation where there is something to chase, speak up about your achievements and go for it. If you are a leader in that kind of environment where you are seeing people not get the right kind of opportunities in their early career, or being stuck in low-level roles, then do something about it. You need to standardize your promotion processes and make sure that they're genuinely fair. And as a leader, I don't want you to sit there and say, well, this person didn't really talk about their stuff, so I'm going to give it to the person that talked. Don't be stupid.
That's the thing.
Do better. And I say it as a leader myself. Do better. It's your job to pay attention to everybody on your team. It is your job to understand the different types of personalities that you have, how they operate at their natural best and how you can bring the best out of them. It is your job to understand what they're doing and how they're doing it. It is your job to promote and to advocate for them, especially when they can't do it for themselves. It is not good enough to say, well, this person speaks up, so I'm going to give them opportunities. Well, this person, hey, listen, you really do need to speak up for yourself a bit more. When you start doing that, fuck off. You're not a good leader. And I can say it because I know what I'm talking about. You are not a good leader. Okay? I don't care if you're crying right now. Do better.
And that's the thing, Dulcie. Like, you just said something. You said it is your job.
It's your
to know
job.
what your people are doing, and not sitting back like the grand poobah and expecting everybody to be like. So, if people are, because one thing I've noticed is that a lot of leaders, they're not in the weeds of things. So you're not in the weeds of things. You're not having to do a lot of the complicated tasks that people lower down are doing. So what are you doing?
What are you doing? Sitting
Do you
there
see,
just
like,
waiting.
ask yourself questions. Like, it's not just about presentations and meetings and things like that. Like, what are you actually doing if not paying attention to what people on your team are doing?
Right.
And by paying attention, we don't mean micromanaging.
No.
But actually trying to understand better what they're doing, the impact of what they're doing, and making little notes so that when it comes time to advocate for them, you're not cracking your brains. You've got, like, do the work.
Do the work. That's what
Like,
you are paid for.
Management starts with managing yourself.
Right. Like, it's so, I cannot tell you how annoying it is.
Yeah.
And I do get it,
It's
right?
lazy.
You have other pressures as a leader. There are things you're getting from the top, and there are things you're getting from your side, and things you're getting from underneath. I get that the pressures are different, but that's why you're paid more. Do your job. I get so peeved when I go into meetings about promotions, right? So we'll sit there, we've got all our people that we're talking about, and you have all these calibration meetings and stuff. And you'll have some managers who will just be talking about their star players, i.e. the people that are the loudest. And actually, I know there's someone on that team who's really bloody phenomenal, quiet, but really, really good. And they don't even talk about them because they don't hear from them. Are you deaf? Have you gone to speak to them?
And this is part of why this situation is systemic, you see, because it's certain types of people are more likely to be on the quiet end of that spectrum. And that's why it's a cycle it's a vicious cycle, because, and it's not going we can't break that cycle until we break this very kind of myopic view that visibility automatically equals the value add.
Honestly.
And that's a pet peeve of mine anyway, but there's a root cause here, and people are so focused on numbers, they're not actually seeing how they themselves are contributors at a very micro level to this systemic problem.
Yeah.
They think it's one big overarching problem. No, it starts with you.
It starts with you. And the more you start doing the right thing, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, I'm close, but not perfect. The more you start doing the right thing by your people, the more others notice it and they start doing the same for theirs.
Yeah.
You can affect change by just changing your own actions. You can.
Yeah, and that's what we mean, right? We're not saying change your organization by going around with a big stick or going around shouting at everyone. I mean, some organizations need that, but really it starts with you. And if you are a leader worth your salt, people will follow suit. And if they don't, maybe another leader you think
maybe you're not the leader you think you are. Maybe you shouldn't be a leader. Maybe you should just go away. Anyway, you know what?
Just shady.
I realised that I may have been a little bit harsh in my delivery, but I said what I said. So get your shit together, okay? Other things you can do if you're in leadership, create mentorship programs. It doesn't have to be an official HR approved program, but you can be a connector. You can connect people early on in their career with your peers, other leaders in other departments. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. Nothing is stopping you from doing that. Don't just wait for a program from the business. Do it. Sorry, I'm shouting again.
Just do it.
Just do it, okay? Encourage them. If you're going to encourage them, if you're saying, okay, be more visible, which is absolutely fine, right? But try and encourage them, not just because you're like, you need to represent the business. Shut up. They don't need to represent the business. But if you are encouraging them to become more visible, genuinely for their own benefit, like I've done stuff in the past where I've been talking to people about, well, listen, why don't you try this out? Not because you're here working at this company, but for yourself. You've got some interesting things that you're working on. I'd love for you to talk about it and also think about how it looks on your CV. I don't like to pretend that you're going to work in this company forever. No, I don't care about that. I want you to be thinking about, what am I going to put on my CV so I can go into another role after this? You're not just here for this. I want you to be at your best here. I don't want to wring you out and just get every drip of value. No, I actually want you to be filled and fulfilled and walk away from this with good memories, fantastic experiences, and the ability to go into something even bigger and better. So encourage your people to advocate for themselves, not just because it helps you, but actually because it helps them. And if you don't care about that, again, quit. You're not a manager. Stop it. I'm just being real. I have a real thing about managers and leadership. And I'm making a lot of promises. I'm going to have to really cash these in at some point. I will be doing a course this year on leadership and about how to be, especially in this modern world that we're in, what good leadership actually looks like. And if you're at a stage where you are trying to enter into leadership and management and you're not entirely sure how to do it, maybe you haven't had the best examples, but you know that you can do something better, then that will be the course for you. So I will discuss it when I actually create it. I have kind of done it, but there's more I need to work on with that one. But as you can tell, I have some very, very strong thoughts about what it means to be a good modern leader.
Which is why you need to do a course on it, because
yeah,
that's the thing. Whatever you have strong feelings about, that's the thing you need to be doing.
Because there's a lot of bullshit that we can make a change. We can change this. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're not one of the people I've told to shut it off, and if I have told, shut it off. I meant it. But if you're not, and I know my WorkWell people, we share a belief that we can do this whole thing of work and life better, right?
Yes.
We can do leadership better. We can make a change. We can disrupt the nonsense and we can make it better. So I will talk more about that in the coming months, because it's a movement. We can in our little ways create big changes. I believe that in my heart and soul.
Agreed.
Other things leaders can do, think about your everyday interactions with people. It might be small to you, right? But when we think about the hierarchy of work and stuff, it's a little bit like school. You know, when you go into secondary school, you're in year 7, and one of the girls in sixth form says something nice to you.
It's like the sun is shining on you.
Oh my God, Rebecca just said I look nice today. Not like the day when I was walking past some sixth form girls and one of my braids fell out. And somebody picked it up and said, "Is that a worm?"
Oh, my darling.
Listen, sweetheart, we've talked about it before. School. School. School did be dirty.
But
I suffered, but that's why I am the way I am today. Mad and aggressive. So, the next phrase then is maternal wall. What do you think that might be?
Oh, I mean, women who've had children and the limited opportunities for progression for them.
Ding, 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 ding. So yes, maternal wall is a bias that's faced by mothers and caregivers with the assumption that they are somehow less competent or committed after having children.
And you know what? One thing I'll give the Department for Education, that was one of the first places I discovered that this was like they actively fought against this.
Good.
And I saw it several times. I saw women who were on maternity leave apply for roles, get promoted, and come back from maternity leave in a higher role than they left.
Fantastic.
That was my first.
Fantastic.
That was my first, and not just that. It was then because it was they both had children around the same time, so it was a job share,
Mm.
and so they made. I was blown away, Dulcie, because I was like, I had never in my life encountered anything like this. Two women on maternity leave come back with higher roles, and there's a flexibility of a job share, so they can
Yeah.
be with their kids and still work at that higher level. I was
Amazing.
blown away.
That's
And
so
even
good.
myself,
Yeah. And it's just
and that's how it should be. It
how
shouldn't
it
be
should.
blowing my mind. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but it blows my mind because look, mothers are
yeah,
79% less likely to be hired than non-mothers, even with the same quality.
79.
Mhm.
Is that bad?
It's that bad.
Damn.
And then here's the joke of it all. Studies have shown that men with children are higher paid than men without, while mothers with children are worse paid than women without. It's a bloody joke. Anyway, there's a lot of nonsense here. You don't have to go too far to read up on this. Chances are you've experienced it. We all know it, right? There are so many penalties to being a woman who has children or who has to take care of somebody. And it's not just in getting a role or not getting a role. It's also how much you're paid. It's also things like your pension. I wrote some stuff a few years ago about the financial penalties that women face at different stages. And there's multiple stages in your life, and how much less money you have when you retire as a woman than a man. I must dig it out actually, because it's probably worth sharing again, but it's absolutely dreadful. And women live longer than men, so we're poorer in our old
For
age.
longer.
Like it's awful. So there are some very, very real emotional, financial consequences to this disparity. If you're experiencing, again, more and more, thankfully, we are seeing places, you've just described it yourself, where they are actively combating this and having policies in place. So again, if you know, right, I want to have children, you have to be strategic about where you're looking for work.
Yeah.
You do, I'm afraid. You have to look at things like the benefits on offer, the flexible work policies on offer, and the policies and experiences around mothers, right? Do your research on things like Glassdoor. Look at people who have worked at a company. You're going to have to be a little bit of a stalker on LinkedIn and things, because you'll normally be able to know if someone's a mother or not. It will typically come up in their posts and whatnot. Reach out and ask questions. Do your Googles, because this is really important. This is actually incredibly serious. This is your life and your pocket. You have to try your best to understand, if you plan to set up a career somewhere, that place will look after you while you do things like bring life into the world.
I will say something I would tell anyone who is looking at a company. Dulcie, you mentioned Glassdoor. I cannot emphasize this enough. Go do your research. Go on Glass. See what people are saying, and not just the people who are currently working there, but the people who have left.
Oh yeah.
Don't neglect the people who used to work there.
Oh yeah.
Because
they
somewhere in the middle of those two
reviews.
groups of people is the truth.
Yeah.
So the ones who are still there and like it, and the ones who have not, and somewhere in the middle of that will be where the truth of the matter lies for you. So I would say definitely also don't neglect the people who have left.
Be strategic. So if you're in a business, address those biases head on if you feel comfortable to do that. If you're talking to your line manager or whatever, if you're in like performance reviews and things like that, again, I feel like this seems to be the advice. Don't hide your achievements. Don't let them use your motherhood as any excuse. You are committed. In fact, in my experience of mothers, they are bloody incredible. Yeah. Like, they get shit done because they are getting shit done in their lives. They apply that same commitment and just focus to their work as well. Like, I love having mothers on my team.
So here's the thing from my own personal experience is the reason why I suspect a lot of mothers just get shit done is because we're a lot more time poor than we used to be. So we don't have a choice but to get shit done because there's not enough hours in the day at this point.
Yeah.
Time becomes a very, very, very precious resource.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think about my life before a kid. I'm like, oh, I wasted so much time. Or my life before taking care of another human being. Like I had so much more time,
Yeah.
and money. And I'm now very cognizant of the fact that actually time is my most valuable resource. And I don't have it to waste on anything. I need to get things done and
Yeah.
get things done quickly. And
Mhm. Absolutely. It's so important. But I will just say something for non-mothers, because I think sometimes there is a funny thing against women that don't have children, as if they don't have anything going on. And yeah, we do. We also do. But women, we need to stand together, okay?
yes,
Whether you have kids or not, we're all women. Whether you want children or not, it doesn't actually matter. We need to be
Yes.
able to have empathy for each other, whatever our situations are, and try and understand and support each other through whatever it might be.
And stop buying into the stereotypes about
Please.
the childless woman or the woman who has 5 children and who's not committed. They're all stereotypes, and usually started by anyway, let me not delve into gender wars, but you know what I mean, like started by men. So it's like don't let that whole divide and conquer thing. No, let's not be divided.
Let's not divide. Let's
stick together.
Let's stick together, because
women supporting women.
Listen, I support women's rights and wrongs.
10 toes down.
But leaders, listen, male, female leaders, whatever, mothers, non-mothers, fathers, non-fathers, whatever you are, really try to normalize parental leave. Like, there's so much wonderfully, we are for those of you who are listening in the UK or the EU or whatever, sorry for the US listeners, I know it's not quite the same over there in terms of like parental leave, but we are getting increasingly better over here on shared parental leave. I think there's not much said about, because we hear the stats about, oh, well, fathers are better off than men without kids, but we kind of sometimes ignore men in the conversation about children. And actually, a lot of men, they actually like their kids.
Yes.
And they want to spend time with their children. So I'm so happy to see an increase in things like parental leave and fathers being able to take more time for their kids. And it can be so helpful for the mothers as well when you are able to decide as a couple. And I'm sorry, we're talking very heteronormative standards here, but when you're able to agree as a couple how much time you want to take off, and because sometimes the woman is paid more, so it actually makes sense for her to go back to work sooner than the father and whatnot. So actually, it's wonderful that we are seeing more and more companies acknowledge both parents in that early stage and think about things like parental leave, increased paternal leave, etc., etc. So, for everybody, look at the company that you're working at or want to work at, understand what's on offer. As a leader, if you have the ability to advocate for better policies, more flexible policies. Yemi mentioned earlier on that wonderful example of being able to have, what was it again?
Yeah, job share. So the civil service stuff.
Right.
Well.
So if you are able to push for those kinds of things within your business as a leader, please do. It can make a phenomenal amount of difference in the lives of your employees. And even we keep saying, yes, there are bigger systemic things that we want to change, but there are also just small things you can do. So yeah, I think those are things to do with maternal wool. The next one doesn't need any explanation. We know what they are, but I'm just going to talk about a little bit about it. It's pay gap for different groups, I should say. We know about gender, we know about race. I also want to talk about age and disability, because there are just so many flipping gaps. We need to mind the gap. We've got to start minding the bloody gaps. So again, no brainer here. Gender pay gap refers to women earning less than men for the same work. Race pay gap addresses the disparities between earnings for different ethnicities. The disability and age pay gaps refer to the lower wages and fewer opportunities for people who have disabilities or people who are of a certain age. These are also all protected characteristics in the Equality Act or the whatever, I can't remember, but
I think it's the Equality Act.
But yeah, so these are all protected characteristics. This ought not to be happening, but it still is. So as of April 2024, just under a year ago, the gender pay gap was 7%. It has improved over time. It's 7.5% the year before, but it's still there. It's more pronounced between when you get to older employees. So people over 40, that gap increases to 9%.
Okay.
Not great. When we look at race, there are lots of different variables, and I'm talking about the UK here. There are loads of stats for other geographies, of course, but we are UK based, so we can talk about the UK. So for Asian or Asian British born employees, I think the gap was about 2% in favour of their white counterparts. For African, Caribbean, Black British, UK born Black ethnicities, after all the adjustments, it was 5.6% in favour of their white peers. In 2023, so for people with disabilities, the gap was 12.7%. If we look at hourly wages, it's £13.69 for people with disabilities versus £15.69 for people without.
Yeah.
Which is just quite devastating, honestly. And the disability, so like I said, we've seen a lot of improvements over time with gender, race, etc. We haven't with disability. It has remained stable between 2014 and 2023.
What?
There has been no change.
No, that's terrible.
Which it's just very demoralizing. It's very heartbreaking because there are already massive challenges for people with disabilities, right?
Yeah.
To get jobs in the first place. There are so many companies who won't even make the smallest modifications for people with disabilities. So to get a role in the first place is one thing, and then to be consistently underpaid for that, it's not okay. It's as simple as that. With all of this stuff, it's simply not okay. And we're not talking about absolutes here. We're talking path of like level for level, band for band. This is the disparity with you versus your peers, i.e. people doing the same job as you. So it's not, we've already talked earlier on about the massive underrepresentation of various minority groups in senior leadership. So we're not looking at it from that perspective where people might be, well, there's more white people in senior leadership and there's more non-disabled people in senior leadership. So of course they're going to make more. Don't be stupid. We've accounted for all those variables, doing like for like, okay? Don't come at me with those stupid excuses. That's all been accounted for. This is like for like. There are gaps, there are disparities which simply need to be closed. Yeah. So it is very difficult. Again, if you're experiencing it, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
But, when you are having conversations about your salary or trying to negotiate a salary, where possible, try and benchmark. I know that in this country, we are really, really weird about talking about money. It's so gauche to discuss your salary, but that's also part of how they keep you unpaid. Yeah. One day I'm going to talk about it. I mean, I've talked to you about it already, like my story of finding out about being underpaid. Being underpaid for a long time in a particular role and what it led to, and that's a story for another day, but it's happening. It is happening. So where possible, talk about your money. I don't give a shit what your manager says. I don't care if people say you shouldn't do it. Within your teams and stuff, talk about it. I have been on the receiving end of it. I've also been in a leadership position where I went out of my way to address it. Most people won't do that. They will just allow you to be underpaid, like as if it's their father's company.
And that's another thing, like I am highly suspicious of leadership who don't know how to separate themselves from the business.
Look,
and And
it's not your business.
it's not your business. And I think that's part of the problem
Mm-hmm.
is that you have people who conflate themselves with or their success with the business's successes or like no, you are just as much as an employee as the rest of them.
You can get
And
sacked too.
so if you know um your pay is fair and you're aware of other people's pay not being fair, do
Mm-hmm.
something. If your pay isn't fair, then you even have double
Yeah,
reason to do something.
right.
But even if it's just having a conversation, have
Have it.
shedding some light.
Yeah.
And please, not making excuses for the business. There's nothing I can't stand more than when an issue is raised around pay or around these things, and you have somebody defending the business as though it's coming from their own bank account. Oh,
Mm,
so you're not gaslighting anyone. You're not putting the wool over anyone's eyes. You're just revealing yourself to be a fraud.
a complete
So
fraud.
just think about that. Honesty is always the best policy.
Mm-hmm.
And so stop pretending like there's something wrong with people who bring up issues of pay when you know full well that you are enjoying the benefits of
Yeah.
essentially what they are suffering.
Like, come on. Be a
So
human.
be a
to
human
say.
being.
So yeah, if you're experiencing it, benchmark where possible, band together people, talk about your stuff and together you are stronger when looking for more money. Surprise, surprise, document and talk about your achievements. Who knew that self-advocacy was so important? And if you're a leader, like we said, it's not your dad's company, yeah? Don't forget that you know what it's like to be there, overworked and underpaid. Do better. You can do better.
It's not a flex to get someone at a lower pay band than they're worth.
Mm-mm.
It's not a flex.
Mm-mm.
So people think it's like, oh, we got this person for this price.
Mm.
It's not.
It's not.
Because when it comes out that that's what you did, the blowback is not going to be worth it for you.
It's really not. It's really not. So yeah, conduct pay audits. If you've just come in and you've taken over a team, look at the salaries. New broom, right? See if there's stuff you can changes you can make. Look at that stuff. Don't just be like, just wait for people to tell you. Like, actually, be proactive. Create transparent pay structures and banding and everything else to make sure that things are fair. Look at bias and what role bias is having in hiring and promotions and address that. Be proactive. I think all the things we're talking about here, all the stuff, I know I'm going in on leaders a lot, and I mean that because I think too many leaders are lazy. Mm-hmm. Be proactive. Do the right thing. It's actually very, very simple. You aren't going to be able to make all the changes overnight, but make an effort. Just try.
I think too many leaders, apart from that laziness, too many leaders focus on what their team is doing and not what they are doing themselves.
Yes.
And what the business is doing. That the energy they are giving is disproportionate to the things that they major on the minor.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a leader, the question you should be asking yourselves is less about what are my team doing to provide value as much as what is the business doing? What am I doing to provide value to my team?
Mm-hmm. How am I getting the best out of them? How am I pouring the best into them?
We're not stupid.
No.
Right? Remember, you're working with people, not numbers on a spreadsheet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay, so that concludes part 1 of our workplace bias episode. My God. It's crazy.
There's more.
So, barriers like the glass ceiling and pay gaps, we get it. They can feel really overwhelming, but understanding them is the first step towards making change, whether you are experiencing it as an employee or you're tackling it as a leader. You have the power, no matter how small, you have the power to take action. So whether it's advocating for yourself or fostering fairness in your workplace, go ahead and make that change happen.
Yes. This week, we challenge you to reflect on your own workplace experiences. Are you navigating one of these barriers? If so, take one actionable step.
Mhm.
Track your achievements, seek out a mentor, or open a conversation about equity. Small steps, as you know, can lead to big changes.
So thank you for joining us today on the WorkWell podcast. If you
Thank
enjoyed the
you.
episode, we'd love it if you could subscribe to the show so that you never miss another episode. And while you're there, please leave us a 5-star rating or review. It means the world to us, and it is the easiest, quickest, freest way of getting more people to discover the show.
Yes, you can also connect with us on social media. We are at This Is WorkWell on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what stood out to you the most in this series and how are you navigating these dynamics in your career?
So next time in part 2 of Workplace Dynamics, we're going to dive into the cultural and systemic dynamics that shape today's workplaces. So we're going to talk about things like quiet quitting and AI discrimination. It's an important conversation, so we hope to see you there. Until then, take care and keep working well. Bye.